Okay, lesson of the day is car debadging, as it's officially called. Whether it's removing the emblems or debadging the car matters not. So there is a simpler process to it. The traditional route is to break out the fishing line or the dental floss. I'm working on I think it's a Hyundai. It's got 4 emblems he wants to remove. So I'm going to simplify it for those that are coming here just looking on how to do it themselves. But I'm going to talk and I'm going to add some stuff at the end if you're a professional detailer and you want some tips. All right, we have a brand new Hyundai Sonata. He wants 4 of them removed. This one, that one. And just so you know, last I checked, because I had another customer call me out to try to remove this, this does have the fasteners through it. So that's my first warning or caution to someone, a do-it-yourselfer that wants to remove or debadge their car. As a rule, all the other emblems will be attached using what's called double-sided tape. Like everywhere else in the world and detailing itself, here's the 4th one that he wants removed. Nothing is created equal. There's rules and then there's forever exceptions to the rule. So the rule is that any manufacturer's logo, like in this case the Hyundai H, the stylized H, will have fasteners on it. My guess is that the manufacturers do not want that ever removed. This stuff, like this and this, will be attached using double-sided tape. Okay, here we are. It's the front right panel of the car. The blue drive. The traditional method would be to take out your dental floss. If you are going to use dental floss, I recommend the Glide. It does seem to be a little bit stronger. You can even double it up if you want, like this. And the idea is that you saw back and forth and you basically saw through the double-sided tape. Well, I used to do that. I even have a video originally that started out doing that, but what I do now is, all I know is I want to get this off. How I get it off really is mostly irrelevant, so long as I don't damage the paint. So I don't have to saw through and break through the double-sided tape in order to remove this gently, because by pulling this off, it's not going to pull the paint with it, if that's the fear. I don't know what the fear is with most guys. I don't know if most people even think about it, but you can cut to the chase. And how do I cut to the chase? Is I grab it with a pair of pliers and I just pull. Like that. Now, because we're removing the emblem, I don't have to worry about keeping the emblem intact unless for some reason the customer said he wants the emblem, which they never do. Now, not all emblems are created equal. This one is pretty substantial in size, so I have the ability to grab it with the pliers without touching the paint. Now, if you don't have a steady hand and you want to use this method, you can tape it off, and that way you can actually put the pliers against the paint, grab the emblem, and pull it off. Now, what you have to be careful of is sometimes, because you are being hyper careful and you're a little shaky and you think you have it, you think you have a strong enough hold on it, and you pull it off and it snaps, but the emblem doesn't come with it. And I've actually pinched my fingers and left quite a mark. A mark so significant that it started bleeding all over the place. Okay, so that's where you become hyper focused. You're so focused on doing what you're trying to do that you forget about things being in the way. Also, if you grab it, whatever, and it breaks loose without pulling the emblem off, you have a chance of scratching the paint. So it's just, you need to understand the limitations or the trade-offs. But if you have a steady hand, go for it. If you don't have a steady hand, just tape it off and protect the paint. That's an easy way to do it. Now, this drive is a thinner plate. It is not as thick as this. So in order for me to grab this, because it also has rounded corners, it's tough to grab an edge without it wanting to continually like round off and come loose without pulling the emblem off. So this is a case where, because I do have a very steady hand, I can actually lift a corner with the screwdriver and force the emblem up as I wedge my finger in the screwdriver. But I'm very cautious. Okay, this is where you have to understand the risk involved, and you have to decide, are you willing to take the risk? Do you know how to do it without causing damage? Now I've pulled off half the emblem, and now I've got this rubberized double-sided tape that is actually a layer of insulation from my screwdriver, so it's actually less risky now. Now, if you do decide to go with this method, a couple things you have to be cautious of, and this is where you can become hyper-focused, is as I'm prying like this, let's say my end snaps off, and now this end of the screwdriver jams the car over here. Okay, that would obviously not be good. Also, as I'm prying this up, if I go so far that this edge now catches the paint, I have to be cautious of that. So there's all these areas of caution that you need to be aware of. But I guarantee you, I just pulled that off and I took extra time to explain it. I could have had that off, and I bet in a minute, and less than a minute and a half. If I was to sit here and saw through this double-sided tape, which is very annoying to work with. I mean, you have to think about it. These emblems are meant to stay on here for the life of the car. Now, at this point, this is actually the most difficult part, in my opinion, is how do you get this double-sided tape off without abrading the paint? Now, you can use traditional adhesive removers, which I would not recommend at this point, because what would happen is, yes, it will break down the paint, or I'm sorry, the double-sided tape, but because there's so much tape, it creates this big gooey mess, and you're constantly wiping, and it just becomes a sticky gooey mess. So at this point, I'm either going to sit here and just peel it off by hand or by finger, and if there's enough of it, you will blister up the tip of your finger, because it, like I said, this tape is meant to stay there for life. But this is where the eraser tool comes in. Now, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you probably don't want to invest the time and the money, because the eraser tool, or the eraser tool attachment that goes on the end of a traditional drill motor, can take this off in about 20 seconds. Well, that's a little over, that's actually not true. 20 seconds, that's me being overly dramatic. Okay, let's say it took me a minute, but I could get it off in a minute. But most of you, if you're do-it-yourselfers, will not want to do that. Okay, so if you're a professional and you want to take this on as part of your list of services, I highly recommend it. And this is where a website comes in, is you have the ability to attract people like this customer who found me online, and he, you know, based on how I wrote my page, and I'll put a link in my description box, and you can see what I charge. I've actually quoted this guy 150 bucks, so at the end of the video I'll tell you how long it actually took me, because it is good money. It's pretty straightforward. Some additional rules: if you're a do-it-yourselfer, the sooner you take this off, the better. So if you want to wait 2, 3, 5, 9 years, whatever, to take this off, you've got to understand that there's some drawbacks to that. There will be a shadow. Always there will be a shadow left, because this paint that is uncovered and continually exposed to the UV lighting, this paint will fade, and now when you take the emblem off, you will have a permanent shadow. You will not, in most cases, be able to even polish or wet sand that shadow away completely. So does that mean that you should never debadge your car if it's older than a year or 2 years? No, it doesn't. It just means that it's a case by case. On some cars, that shadow is going to be more significant or prevalent. depending upon the color of the car. And then also, you're not going to see that shadow in every lighting. So unless your car stumbles into some bad lighting, suddenly you look at it and you go, oh wow, there's that shadow. Well, but most of the time that's not the case. And how many people, whether it's your friends or passerbyers, come up to your car and inspect it from 3 inches away? Well, I'll answer for you. Not very many people. Aside from yourself, you know, if you want to drive yourself crazy and nitpick it and overanalyze everything, you can find flaws with everything if you look close enough. But that's not reality for most of us. Most of us want to stand back from about 5 to 10 feet, look at our car and say, wow, that looks cool. Okay, so now the double-sided tape is basically off. Now I can use some adhesive removal because there's always going to be some residue. And this is step 3. There will always be some residue. Now I have a little bit of dirt on this, so at this point I'm going to wipe the dirt off and I'm going to use some adhesive remover of some kind, and I'll show you 2 different versions. Okay, this is just straight alcohol, rubbing alcohol and distilled water. I'm just going to simply lightly remove the dust from the surrounding area, and now it reveals our outline. And black, by the way, black cars, I don't care what it is, it's always the worst of the worst because it shows everything. And as a rule, I charge more, whatever I'm doing, for a black car. Now this is 3M general purpose adhesive remover, tar and adhesive remover, you can call it whatever you want. So the idea is you spray it on and you allow it to do its job, and this is called dwell time. So I'm just going to expedite a little bit by gently, I'm not digging my finger into this paint, I'm gently kind of agitating the adhesive and helping this adhesive remover along. So this is effective and probably the better option for a do-it-yourselfer, someone that just wants to do this on his own car. He's not a professional, he's not looking to do this over and over again. Okay, so it will work. I have a product that works better, and it's my rapid remover, but it's very expensive, and by expensive I mean relative to other products. So unless you plan on doing a lot of it, or you really value your time and you want to cut to the chase, yes, I'm using a towel because I know I'm going to have to polish this area with a buffer, because there looks like there's going to be perhaps not a shadow, but what happens is there's just like an outline of where the emblem was. That's very common. And the longer the emblem has been allowed to sit there, what happens is dirt collects around that emblem. As your car rolls down the road and vibrates, it just slowly abrades an outline of that original emblem. So as I'm actually going to switch to my rapid remover. It's in a generic bottle right now because I buy it in a gallon. It's like 50 bucks a gallon. I think it's like 30 something dollars for a quart, but I know that it is more effective and quicker, and because I do a lot of this stuff, it's definitely worth it to me. I use it for removing decals, it's not meant to be used to remove the top layer. The top layer is always different. Okay, that's a separate issue. In this moment, the top layer was a metallized, it's actually not metallized, it's just chromed plastic. Okay, but it, see how quickly it cut to the chase? So that is it removed, okay? But I can still see an outline for whatever reason. So that means, like, if this was a white car or a light colored car, I could wax it and I could call it quits. But because it's black, I have to now polish this, and I don't really know exactly what's up with the outline because I can't feel anything. It's completely smooth, but there's still an outline. So as a rule, I know that I can polish that away. So that's what I got to do now. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, this is where you need to understand the limitations or the pros and cons of anything. So you could get some polish or compound of some kind and polish this by hand if you wanted to. In fact, I'll see if I can do it. Okay, I've got my Menzerna FG400. It's their high performance compound. I'm going to see if I can remove and not all polish, even these scratch removers, you know, these retail car paint scratch removers, they don't really have any abrasives in it. See when I do this, see that effect, that shadow, that kind of, it's like a reverse shadow effect. That tells me that there's some residue of some kind. Just because I can't feel it with my fingers does not mean it's not there. So that's very revealing in and of itself, the fact that I'm doing this by hand, and that shadow instantly appeared as I rubbed over it with this polish. So just because I can't feel it by hand does not mean that there's not some kind of residue there. So that's why I say there's multiple steps, but I wanted to see if you know, for the do-it-yourselfer, how realistic this is. And I know it's realistic. The challenge is finding the right products, the right technique. So at this moment, what product do you have lying around the house that actually has some abrasives in it, but not so abrasive that you leave a pattern in your paint where you sit here and rub with your fingers? Okay, so this is actually coming out rather nicely, and I would say I'm going to get my glasses because I love to magnify things, because I know that when I put my what's called readers for us old people, when I put my readers on, it actually magnifies things, and I know that if it looks perfect under magnification, that I know that with the unaided eye it's going to look flawless. So that's actually a tip that I use in moments like this, is I'll put on my readers and I'll actually magnify the moment, and it really reveals blemishes and flaws. So I fix them under the magnification, and then I know that once I remove my glasses, no unaided eye is going to discern any type of flaw or blemish. So that's kind of a cool trick that I do personally. Anyhow, so I'm going to say that that's good. Actually, I'm going to say that that's great. That will be absolutely acceptable. I'm going to go around and I'm going to finish taking off the rest of the emblems. I'm going to come back and I'm going to wax it, and then I'm going to call it quits. I'll report in as to how long it actually took me, and then we'll go from there. Okay, this is me working on the other side. Here's my readers. Yes, I'm an old guy, but you don't have to be old to enjoy the benefits of this little strategy, which is you magnify something. It's kind of like good from far, far from good, okay? So the further away from your car, the better it's gonna look, because you're gonna see the blemishes and flaws less and less. So this is the opposite, where it's like I want to reveal everything. So I'm gonna put on some readers or magnification lenses, and it's really going to reveal all the intricate nuances of the moment. So it's a cool little strategy. I did not invent it by any means, for lack of a better word. It was actually a byproduct of me just getting old, and I wear contacts now, and that does the same thing, except that just corrects my vision rather than enhance my vision. So these readers is a way to enhance it. So one day I thought, well, wait a minute, what if I use those readers to actually magnify my work, and I can really see in a way that I know my customer will not see himself unless he whips out a pair of readers, which I've never seen happen before, and he wants to overly critique my work. That just is not reality. So anyhow, I stumbled upon this process or technique, for lack of a better word. I guess technique would be the right labeling, and it's cool. because like I said, I'm always after perfection, and I know perfection is subjective. Perfection is in the eye of the beholder. I'm always after it, and I'm always after over-delivering. So it's like, hey, guess what? This can make me that much better, because now I can perform at a higher standard or a higher level. And like everywhere else in my life, that's just a goal I have. That's just the way I operate. Okay, so I'm gonna finish and we'll come back. Okay, I'm back. The official time is an hour, which is exactly what I wanted it to be, because that allows me travel time. So I've got the 50 bucks in there for travel time, although it was very close to me. So travel time really wasn't an issue, but I charged 150 bucks, 4 emblems, the removed, and I'll apply this word of caution. It's not going to show up in this video. I'm not shooting in HD, but right here there's 2 spots. And what is often common is that when you remove decals or emblems, there's stuff underneath that you can't control, because when they originally put them on, something happened, or there's a blemish in the paint. So that's where it comes into managing expectations, and you give a little disclaimer to your customer and say, hey, I am hyper cautious in removing these emblems, but I can't control all the variables. One of the variables is that I will never know what is underneath. And so if something happened at the factory that I have no control over, sometimes it's revealing in a rude, inconvenient way when you pull the emblem off. So because I have a full touch-up kit with me, paint touch-up, and I can do wet sanding, buffing, and all that stuff, I can fix a lot of stuff, but I'm still limited myself. And you as a professional, if you are, that's just a little sidebar in managing expectations and trying to, you know, there's always unseen consequences, or the ripple effect, and that's one of them when it comes to debadging a car. Okay, so the big grand tour, as if I haven't shown you enough, all 4 emblems are removed and we're good to go.